Evening team. Look, I just want to give you an update from the LinkedIn conference today. I know there was a couple of absentees. So went in there, flew the mentor flag. A few takeaways, which I think will be good for our strategy and I suppose whole content piece that we're doing moving forward. Look, it really started off where identifying that there were concerns that employees in industry and work actually have at the moment. A gentleman by the name of Dr. Gallagher, who's at Swinburne University, in a study identified that 1 in 2 Australian workers are really fearful due to the idea of automation. Okay. The other thing was that 1 in 2 also lack the confidence to reskill, and I think this is an angle that was certainly worth looking at. That ability for people to engage in learning, and that it's not a big jump for them to continue learning or re-engage with the learning process. Another study that was brought up was this study done by Pearson, and it identified that about 20% of occupations are expected to shrink in the next 5 to 10 years. But that said, 10% of occupations will grow. All right. There's a real opportunity, though, I suppose, in this space, if we can identify the ones that will grow, where they can enhance their skills and essentially become more productive. Okay. Take the Australian economy, for example. It's gone up by 55 times, okay, in the last, say, 30 odd years. But in this period of time, the population's only doubled. So I suppose that really just demonstrates this idea of productivity that can be achieved through automation. There certainly hasn't been a drop in employment throughout this, overall throughout this period of time. Now, across the different sectors, let's say we have the asset sector, the service sector, and then the knowledge sector. So the asset sector could be, say, mining, trades, service sector, hospitality, hair care, beauty, and of course the knowledge sector, which is your white-collar professionals. Now, it's identified that really, as you move through these particular classes over a period of time, there's going to be an increasing need for social skills. And this comes from the requirement, particularly in the knowledge sector, for people to be interconnected, okay, and to be able to correlate using IT platforms. Okay, so that's a really, I suppose, interesting point for us. And it's this idea of IT literacy, which can be applied, well, probably more predominantly in the knowledge sector, but certainly to the other ones there as well. Now, in putting together I suppose a learning proposition, okay, you're really looking, I suppose, at 2 major contributors. Okay, now you want to be looking obviously at insights, okay, and skills gaps. Okay, so what are those skills gaps going to be? Where do you draw the data from to identify what those skills gaps are? But the second big thing, which is really interesting, and it's a theme that came through all today, and it's this idea of marketing. Be able to marketing your learning management systems internally to employees to actually make them want to engage. So it's all good and well to put fancy PDFs and LMSs in front of people, but if they're not motivated to engage, they're not actually going to do it. Okay, and then you find the engagement level, and in turn the completion level becomes really, really low, which got me thinking, and this theme came up time and time again. I mean, there's a couple of core competencies of mentor education, and Mark, you certainly said in the past this idea of digital marketing, but also education compliance. So bringing those 2 things together I think presents a really valuable proposition for Mentor to go to market with. What's actually been seen is a decrease in institution-led face-to-face training. Okay, but now this is sort of budget-wise across these institutions, but there's actually been an increase in online learning management or online learning and development budgets. Okay, so as long as our online system lends itself to this, I think again there's another area of the market that we can tap into with what we're doing at the moment. I suppose another key areas to focus on is this idea of use case. Okay. Micromanagement, self-directed learning, but also manager-led learning as well. So I think when taking this to the market, it's all going to be able to put it on an organisation, but you're going to need champions within the organisation or managers to also direct this learning amongst those who they work with. Now, the technology, of course, presents a number of benefits. It's argued that it can, in fact, boost engagement. Okay, and it's also important, though, that there's room there for this idea of online collaboration. So again, another point certainly worth considering. And then social learning moments as well, and that's could be a joint discussion board, people encouraging each other, cohorts really sort of coming through, I think is the takeaway there. Okay. Other things is this idea of leveraging insights and the return on investment. Okay, so how do you go about measuring the return on investment with respect to learning and development and education initiatives in your organisation? I had a bit of a chat with a few people there today. How do you quantify it in number terms? People seem to kind of duck this question a little bit. I mean, to actually put a dollar figure on it. But one thing that they sort of came up with time and time again is this concept of skills gaps. Okay, so if you can quantify, I suppose, shortages and amendments to skills gaps, then what you're able to do then is actually put a return on investment on these educational initiatives. And this is, again, something which would form part of pitch packs or whatever it may be. And it might be that mentor, rather than, say, going directly at the retail market, actually sort of goes in as a third-party consultant to organisations to deliver holistic L&D strategies. So it's not just providing the course content in an LMS, but it might also be providing, say, marketing content by way of direct emails to employees, tools and systems that they can use to actually get on board and use it. Now, there was a guest speaker from Lendlease, now Marie Howard. She'd also done the L&D and technology stuff at Optus before they've done Lendlease. They've got this program which they call the Workday Learning Experience. The idea is that this learning is accessible at all times to employees, and it can in fact form part of their workday. Now, they actually went through 3 approaches, and this is really, I suppose, some good learnings from this. Now, the first one was a really basic kind of corporate package where they said everybody who enrolls wins a prize. Okay, and what they found was that the engagement, the number of people that enrolled in these courses, was a lot lower than they expected. Okay, the second approach that they did was learning programs or actually developing programs. So they could come from HR departments, employee succession and training programs, developments, things like that. And what they saw was, I suppose, a low to medium level of take-up and engagement with respect to the education. But the third one, which was really interesting, was this idea that they had, say, 1,000 employees, but they only had 100 online learning licenses. And the way they did it was kind of first in, best rest. Created this sense of FOMO, or fear of missing out, amongst employees. And what they found was that they basically just jumped on it, and they disappeared like hotcakes. And there was a really sort of, I suppose, big level of engagement. And it's this, I guess, idea of, fear of missing out and strong marketing, limited resource, things like that, which is, people see as advantageous. On the other side, though, there was also a guest speaker from NAB, and he's been talking about this, and they're a little bit concerned about this online learning where people are just doing it for the sake of online learning and basically just kind of getting ticks and medals next to their name, and they may, in fact, not be applying the learnings that they're getting from these online short courses. Okay. I suppose the other really major takeaways was, look, there is a change in environment, and it's about addressing, I suppose, what's coming. Okay, and it's certainly something that we know. But where are the learners in organisations going to be? And then how can you help them? Okay, and I think that comes back to the thing that I said at the beginning. So are they unsure about their ability to re-engage in education? Do they have the skills to do so? And being that a lot of them are time poor, and this is something else that came in, is it going to be worth their time re-engaging in online education? And are the skills actually going to be, essentially, it's a cost benefit or time benefit analysis for these employees. So it's important to remind them that there really are benefits to come from engaging in this online education. A few other sort of things came out of the NAB. Key takeaways from this was that the learning experience really needs to be transparent and seamless. Okay, so it needs to be simple. They've been talking about making courses available like on the equivalent of Netflix or Apple TV, so you can actually do it from the comfort of your home in your living room and just kind of on a Sunday with a glass of wine, just kind of sit there in front of the telly and work through these modules. The second big thing is that the learning experience is important. Okay, so obviously that comes down to the engagement and a little bit like the delivery, I suppose, to come from the LMS. But I also sort of come back to these other ideas that it's important to have forums, chat boards, things like that you can actually engage with other students and quite possibly lecturers to improve that whole overall learning experience. Another key takeaway was to have a community of influencers within the organisation. So obviously people have kind of taken the bull by the horns, this L&D, and they can influence other people in the organisation as to the benefits and to get on board with it. The roadmap for their learning and development strategy changes every 90 days. So again, this is really, I suppose, another important data point for us to consider as to what is going on in the industry. And I think Wayne Gretzky said it best. The reason he was the best in the world is he didn't skate. He was an ice skater, for those who didn't know, ice hockey player. But he didn't skate to where the puck was. He skated to where he thought the puck was going to be. And I think that's probably a bit of a theme that we can take out with respect to our content strategy and the sort of skills and short courses that we're intending on putting in place. And learning needs a brand strategy and a campaign to go with it. So I think for us, I mean, if we are going to go B2B into different organisations, we go with a full package, and it's not just dumping a course and an LMS on them. It's also providing those peripheral services of employee engagement, and that could be working with their HR department to make them work in learning and development programs, but also supporting them, say, with EDMs, email marketing, things like that. They can direct out to their employees that they do engage in the educational initiatives that are happening. Other than that, that was really kind of all the key takeaways from today. Brief mention, there was no mention of the specific term Industry 4.0, but certainly reference to the skills that are going to be required in the future and things that are coming to a bit of a close. Now, I understand we don't have a meeting tomorrow on Friday, but we'll touch base again with respect to this on Friday next week, or perhaps even email between now and then, and have a look at really, I suppose, how we're regearing this overall strategy. Okay, but it might be, certainly in my mind, that this idea of the Mentor Education School of Business, I can almost see it sort of morphing into a bit of a learning and development, so organisational learning and development consultation function. Okay, so whereby you go into an organisation, you assist them with their learning and development strategy and support them in rolling out that education to their students, leaning on the key competencies that Mentor has, which I mentioned earlier on. So, all right, well, excellent. Until next time, see you all soon.